The Genesis point list has been updated. And oh my goodness, there's a lot of changes. Let's get into them. Hi. So, October 27th, 2025 is the first Genesis points update. This update is huge. The idea that I thought that this was going to be a pretty sizable list is understated. There is so many monsters that have changed hands in the point list. So, in order to best describe how this is going to be done, we first need to go back to the, what is this, the 22nd, when they expanded on what to expect in the October's points update. These include severe performance outliers, excessive use of generics, new cards with themes with points already, spells that weren't tempting, themes that weren't tempting, extra deck cheat cards, FTK combo pieces, cards likely to become an issue, but we just can't prove it yet, and game administration troublemakers. They broke this down in a manner similar to that, with spaces in between, alongside having them color-coded to know what those points are at. So with that being said, I'm here to go ahead and showcase what all of those cards are individually with a little bit of pictures. First off, we're going to go ahead and start with some of the cards for, these were known as the game administration problems, if we go ahead and take a look here. Game administration troublemakers such as Question and Reversal Quiz. So we're going to go ahead and start things off with this point list. Reversal Quiz over here is going from 0 to 100 points. DD Dynamite to 51, and Banquet of Millions to 51, meaning that they cannot be utilized together in order to make some form of FTK, alongside them not being able to utilize for a case of Trap Trick, which is interesting, as well as Trap Trick having some points later on the line. Black Garden and Earthbound Immortal Osla Piscu, both of these cards have 51 points, as well as Gem Knight Lapis Lazuli. This card also having 51 points. Beals is a monster that was able to be put over to your opponent's field and burn with copies of Blackwing Assault Dragon or Bramble Rose Dragon or Marinized Metal Flare Dragon, making it so those points would always be bounced up. Beals is at 100, while all of these three are now at 1 point apiece. Let's see here. Ivagishki Gust Kraken is a monster that says that it can look at the 2 random cards your opponent's hand, shuffle them into the deck. This card was previously at 0. It is now at 100 points. Alongside Aquamirror, Necromancer, and Mind Augus, all at 1 point apiece. So Gust Kraken being the problem card, these cards being at 1, totally fine for them. Evil Swarm, Ouroboros, and Heraldry Crest. Ouroboros was previously at 67 points, is now at 100, and Heraldry Crest is now at 1. Finally, Question being at 1 has been turned from 0 to 11 points in order to make it so that person can no longer have some game administration problems, and last turn has been upped to 100 points. Now, the reason why this has been done is because Dynamorphia has been hit, which is a card that is able to enable this card pretty frequently if you're able to search through it, which is good and overall. Sick it off, we're going to go ahead and get into cards that are more along the lines of the spell cards that weren't tempting previously. Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis went from 10 to 5 points. Premature Burial down from 25 to 7 points. Monster Reborn down from 15 to 10 points. Mirage of Nightmare going to 0 points. Crazy card. Card of Safe Return going down to 33 points. Heavy Storm going down from 20 to 10. Harpy's Feather Duster down to 15. Lightning Storm down to 20. Dominus Impulse from 30 to 30 to 25, my apologies. And Dominus Spiral down to 5 points. Nibiru the Primal Being a monster that is easily used for the Handtrap, down to 5. Ghostmourner Moonlit Chill from 7 to 3. Ghost Orchid Snow Rabbit from 5 to 3. Saravis the Ancient Ascendant from 5 to 3. And finally, Baron de Fleur going from 85 to 80 points. All of these cards have something to be said about the current metagame and what could be utilized. With all these points going down here, I see a number of these cards being utilized a little bit more. For instance, Lightning Storm going down to 20, that could very well be worth the points. Impulse decks can now have an option as well, and Dominus Spiral now having a way to bounce up monsters for any number of decks that aren't light or dark. I think there's a definite it is definitely a possibility. Nib is a card in the format that somewhat has existed, but now is able to exist even more so, and that has gone down from 10 to 5, meaning that it is a much more worthwhile board breaker card to utilize for some very interruptible combo decks. So, With that being said, I really do like a number of these changes, and I love the ability of being able to play Mirage of Nightmare. That card is crazy, especially if you have a way to utilize quick play spells. Next up, we're going to go and talk about some of the cards. If I look here, these are... Yes, here we go. These are excessive use generics that they describe here. My apologies for the flashbang. Excessive use generics are cards that just need to be brought in line with similar cards already cost appropriately. Draw effects, special summon get a card monsters, and Solemn Judgment variants. So with that, spoiler, we have Upstart Goblin going in from 0 to 3, Brow going from 0 to 3, Pot of Extravagance. This is one of the biggest ones. A lot of decks have been warped around this card. Up from 0 to 10 points. I think that's very appropriate for the level of power this card happens to have. Trap Trick as well going from 0 to 3. Airlifter actually going down to 5 points because Impulse is going up to 5 points a pop, meaning that there's going to be maybe a need for a package to utilize for this, maybe? Being able to airlift or special summon out your either copies of your fire attacker or something along those lines, in case you happen to brick on it. Dragon's Mind going up from 0 to 7, Scolding up from 0 to 5, Iron Thunder up from 0 to 5, Super Polymerization up from 10 to 13, Goblin Biker Grand Breakout and Speedroid Terror Top. These two mostly utilized for a Goblin strategy that has been utilized even for Radiant Typhoon Goblin Biker. Grand Breakout is up to 7 points, and Terror Top is also up to 7 points. And for the extra deck, we have Nash Knight over at... Let's see here. Nash Knight is at 10 points. This is a really big hit to a number of VS hits. But that's not the only ones. And Evil Zor Lars, this card being a 6 negate is crazy. I'm really glad this guy ended up getting some points. Any way to find a 6 and make this consistently is very annoying. So this going up to 20 points, very strong. Next up, we're going to go ahead and talk about some stuff that is involved with the Mitsurugi monsters. That theme is very strong, and a lot of things have changed with it. For instance, they've now changed the ritual and prayers down from 60 to 51, meaning you could play one of them, but still have some room for more cards. However, Ame no Habakiri no Mitsurugi is going from 0 to 100 real quick, baby. I'm really glad about this change. It allows for the Mitsu deck to be utilized as it was previously, while having a copy of either Ritual or Prayers at 51 a pop. I think that makes sense. Manju and Senju up from 1 point, meaning that you cannot find ways to generically search them off of the normal summon to go for Habakiri into some sort of other ritual pile. It's pretty good. Next up, we're going to go ahead and talk about, let's see here, extra deck cheat cards. These cards are described as extra deck cheat cards here. We're going to start with number 99 Utopia Dragonair up from 0 to 80, but oddly enough, Draglubion down from 100 to 80. Well, why is that? Well, that's because they've decided to make Numeron Dragon be a monster that is now worth 21 points instead of just the 1 point, allowing for you to have more utilization with Draglubion without having to go ahead and go for a free FTK enabler with Numeron Dragon and Dragonair. Very good stuff there. I like that. Crimson Dragon having a similar aspect there. Changing from 100 to 80 while making all of the 3 monsters that would be special summoned off of it, Cosmic Blazar, Sephir, and Hot Red Dragon, Archfiend King Calamity, up from 21, and this monster down to 80. Meaning that some decks can have a more generic way of going, if they have their way to a 12, being able to go into different monsters, which I think is very nice. Next up, we're going to go ahead and talk about stun cards. These are basically all of the different stun cards that I happen to have access to. Grisaille Prison. This card is a trap card. If you're unaware, it's going to be relatively more popular inside of the TCG because of Dimensional Barrier just getting banned. This card states, if you control a monster that was Tribute, Ritual, or Fusioned, your opponent can't Synchro Xyz for the next 2 turns. This card going up to 10 points, meaning that it is going to be harder to go ahead and fit this point-wise. Flying Sea is up to 7 points. Retaliating Sea up to 5 points. Evoke Kaliga up from 90 to 100 points. And all of the barrier statues, instead of being at 60, are now at 70 points. Very good stuff. Next up, probably one of the biggest things. These are cards with the meta implications, the themes that have had a lot of needed balancing. Stuff that has some form of showing in the recent in recent days, and I think is very well worth it to be hit. First of all, we're going to have to talk about Vanquish Soul. The elephant in the room, Vanquish Soul is very powerful in Genesis format. However, with these changes of Halisu going from 10 to 33 points, Jiaolong to 11 points, and Raisin to 11 points, this means that you are going to have a number of different... you're going to have a lot of problems if you attempt to go ahead and play all 3 of these. You could play 3 Raisin, you could play 3 Jiaolong, but you can only play 1 Halisu. You could play 3 Halisu, but you can't play Jiaolong or Raisin. So you're going to have to go ahead and cut back on some. You're going to have to go 2 Halisu, and then maybe, I don't know, 2 Jiaolong and a Raisin? It's going to be a bit harder to go ahead and justify that. Or maybe 1 Jiaolong, 2 Raisin. That's going to be a bit of an issue if you're really trying to go ahead and play Vanquish Soul in the modern meta. And with Nash Knight being hit, good luck with going ahead and going into those 5s as well. Sheesh. Very powerful stuff there. Exosister, Pax, and Michaelis have both been bumped up to 10, as well as Ichikiri Sayori Hime, which lets you add a copy of Martha for relatively free. Pax and Michaelis are up to 10, while Ichika Sayori Hime is up to 5 points, meaning that the total of the amount of cards you want to see with these is going to increase quite a bit. It's going to be very pointed at a higher level. Domain and Frenzy being at 1 point means that it's going to be much harder to utilize those cards with last turn, which is, you know, I'd say pretty good. QQ and Aegon. This card alongside World Legacy Monstrosity makes 9s a bit difficult to go ahead and utilize, alongside Levitin, Generator Boss of Shadows. This means that all of these cards being at, I believe they are all at 1. Yes, they cannot be utilized with the True King of all Calamities at this point, which I think is relatively, you know, that makes a lot of sense for what we want to go ahead and do in the format. Next up, we have Treasures of the Kings. This card is going to be going from 0 to 5 points. This is a light smack on the wrist for Odeon. I'm surprised, but I think it makes sense because of how much the other field spell adding cards has been hit a little bit. But it's hard to go ahead and say that this is not going to be one of the better decks in the format overall. I think that it's still fine for that to be the case, but this card is very powerful for what it's able to do, and at 5 points, I still think is a steal. Nerva, the Power Patron of Creation. This card is a generic card, I will point out. This card normally is utilized in the Art Mage strategy, of course, but it can also be utilized by attributing 3 monsters with different types. And this generic monster could be utilized in any number of different fashions, and so perhaps it's time for us to move from this monster, if you're willing to find some ways to clear up the board space, with perhaps the Trishula Fusion, be able to go ahead and utilize in banishing those monsters. Nerva, the Power Patron of Creation, being the only hit for Art Mage is very, very scary, actually. I'd be concerned just a little bit. Next up, we have Dodo Warrior. This card going from 0 to 7 points makes a lot of sense. Onomatopera is being the only card you really utilized, meaning that now if you have 3 copies of your best card alongside that, you are at 21 plus 33. That's like 54 points of dedicated to your engine. Quite a bit of commitment to go ahead and utilize there. Next up, we have, if I take a look here, Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. This card is for the Resonator archetype, going up from 0 to 20 points. Very, very well worth it. This card should be at around the 20-point mark. I think that is is a pretty good adjustment overall. Let's see what else we have here. Totem Bird and number 3 Cicada King. Totem Bird going up to 3 and Cicada King going up to 5 are hits to the Radiant Typhoon archetype as well as the Speedroid archetypes. Bringing out the generic 3s and having the Windlocks, meaning that these cards are hits to the extra deck of the strategy. And most of these were played at 2 or 3 ofs because there wasn't a whole lot to do with these 3s, especially if you were Windlocked. So having them just be out there was fine, but now you're going to have to go and pay just a little bit more for them. But I think it's well worth it. You're going to have to go ahead and utilize and pay for those for the cost of utilizing them. Typically, people have been playing either with Handtraps, quick play spells with Runics, or just Pot of Greed. And so having these be parts of the hits that you have there means you're going to have to cut out some of the different cards you want to utilize from there. Let's see, what else we have? We have the Canine cards. Noroi has gone up to 15, as well as Joku has gone up to 15 from 10 and 13 respectively. And Canine X Werewolf has gone up to 10, meaning that this engine is gotten a little bit more expensive now. Phantom Fortress Enter Blathnir has gone up to 13 points, meaning that it is going to be harder to utilize to hand loop your opponent for multiple cards, which is good. I'm surprised this card didn't get a lot more points in that regard. And Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Now this monster has gone up from 3 to 13, which means that it's just added a 10-point increase to the hand trap builds for Ice Barrier, I guess. Haven't seen too much of this card running around, but I guess it makes understood. It's definitely an annoying card to deal with, especially if properly synchro summoned rather than how they some strategies utilize it. And finally, Megalith Anastasis going from 0 all the way up to 33 points. Wow, being able to add 2 Megalith monsters is strong, and I understand why they went ahead and hit this one. Now for this one, I'm going to be real with you. They kind of, like, gave the elbow. They like, smacked up Branded and say, quit playing in our format. I can't believe what they did here. Okay, so the Fallen the Virtuous is a new card that has just been released, and this card lets you send a monster from your that mentions Fallen of Albaz from your extra deck to the graveyard, the target face-up card on the field, destroy it. This is a generic card, and I think it's very well worth it. However, what they've done is instead pointed every Fallen of Albaz mentioned fusion monster as well, and Masquerade for the branded structure. So Albion is now 20, Titanic Clad is now 10, Sprint is 10, Grand Guignol is 10, Brigran the Glory Dragon is 10, the Dragon that devours the Dogma is now 10, but Lubellion and Mirror Jade are now 10. Branded Fusion's up from 33 to 40. Mercurier is now at 5. And Masquerade the Blazing Dragon is now at 16. Wow. I'm a little shocked, actually. I'm glad that Masquerade being pointed overall is good because of the hits involving if we take a look here, the FTK enabler of Beals. So that makes sense. But still, this is a big shift in how they deck build. With Branded Fusion at 40 now, you're going to have to make major concessions in the extra deck for any number of these cards, all at 10. And Branded Dragon being 20 is crazy. You might just not be able to fit enough for 3 Fallen the Virtuous and then any number of Albion. You can't recycle this card that's pointed. I don't know if I like that. I really liked the idea of having this recursive spell card that pops that lets you set itself after Albion every turn in a longer, grindier format. I think that this card being pointed to 10 and maybe this card being pointed to 10 would make sense, but this being at 15 and this being at 20 is just saying, no, we do not want that, which I think is fine, but a little harsh in my opinion. And then finally, we have all of the cards that deserve to be some form of shifted away that have not seen themes been utilized much whatsoever. First of all, Rhoda is down from 40 to 35 alongside E-Telly and Tenki and Fossil Dig. All of these cards gone from 40 to 35 points respectively, means that search cards for these archetypes have gone down, which I think is well worth it. I think that it is still a high cost to pay, and you can't play 3 of them, but you still get a little bit more wiggle room, which I think is nice. Let's see here. Nightmare Apprentice. This card, it was at 40, but it says it's at, It says it was at 40, but it's actually at 33 on the site, if we take a look here. Yeah, it says Nightmare Apprentice was 40, but it's gone down to 20 points apiece now, which is a lot better, I will say. We have Tenyi Spirit Ashuna. This card is going down to 13 points, as well as the Hidden City. Both of these cards make a lot of sense for them to be going down. There wasn't much of a reason for them to really kind of exist in this way in the first place. I was surprised that this was the case, just in general. I was thinking that they weren't going to be well worth it in that regard. What else do we have? Union Hanger. This card going down to 25 points, meaning that ABC has a little bit more of a wiggle room in the format overall. Sword Soul Emergence is going down from 33 to 25 points. And then we have the Gladiator Beast. Gizzy. The Gizzy Gladiator has gone down to 0 points, down from 20. Proven Ground down from 33 to 25. And Gladiator Rejection down from 15 to 10. However, the price of that is going to be Tamer Editor. Tamer Editor is a monster that lets you special summon a Gladiator Beast Fusion from extra deck, except itself, ignoring summoning conditions. This card is going from 20 to 33 points, so it's going to be harder to go out and bring these out. Now, here's my favorite part. I'm a Ninja player, I have been for a long time, and I'm so glad to see that both Maizen and Yagoromaru have gone down from 20 to 5. Oh my god. This clears up so much for the Ninja's side. This is actually insane. Being able to go ahead and play 3 copies of Maizen, 2 copies of Yagoromaru for the cost of one and a quarter of what it was previously. Very, very strong. I am very excited to try this out. Sprite Starter going from 20 to 10 is very good for the Sprite strategy. Nightmare Throne going down to 25, and Gruesome Gravestormer going down to 0. But Phantom of Yubel is paying for these prices by going up to 76 points, meaning that you can't even play it with Nightmare Throne anymore. They just said, you can play Nightmare Throne, I don't care, just don't play with this card. And you can play it with Gravestormer all you want. Just play Nightmare Throne and no Phantom, which is interesting. Don't know how well it's going to go out, but I guess that's fine. And then finally, Vanishing Lanius down to 0. So, overall, my thoughts on this point list. Wow. A lot of things have changed. A lot of the meta has shifted. A lot of the power spells, I think, are very well worth taking a look at. This, in my opinion, aside from Baron, is the sections that you want to be paying attention to in the next upcoming weeks. You're going to want to take a look at some of these cards that you have been playing and readjust your list, of course. Rip Bozo, Rip Bozo, Rip Bozo. I have more nuance I could say here, but Rip Bozo, so glad about that. This is still playable. Exosister is still playable, just hurt quite a bit. Can't use as many non-engines for free. Dinomorphia being hit is fine, especially for trying to play last turn. These is a couple of fine hits, and Leviathan as well, making it so you just can't play it with the best card in the format overall, which is the fucking True King. Treasures is, I don't know if that's going to be enough to go ahead and see much change from there. Dododo Warrior being hit is good. Noroya and Jokul being hit as well is good. With Werewolf, Archfiend Abyss making Resonators a bit more pricey is good. These are good, but not enough for Radiant Typhoon. I think that Radiant Typhoon can easily go ahead and clear out the dust off from this, most definitely. Werewolf as another hit for 9 decks is very good, is very strong, especially for wanting to utilize it in Generator. Still a good possibility there. Foxy Tune being the only thing that Punk really got hit with, and has some room overall, with E-Telly coming back down to a more reasonable price is going to be a little bit scary. But still worth something to go ahead and say with Foxy Tune going to 5. Megalith, I'm so sorry that you had to go ahead and go all the way to 33, but it makes sense for this deck being able to discard 1, add 2, and then make it so that way you get draw 2s or tribute opponent monster. We got a long one. And Trishula being hit is very powerful. Rip Bozo, oh my god. Dude, they killed Brandon. I'm sorry to my buddy Steven. Holy. And all these being on hit or at least lowered in points is great. I really do think so. Yeah, overall, my thoughts on the ban list, pretty good. I wish they hit some more things. I wish they hit Shifter. Shifter needed to be hit. I'm surprised it's still at 10. But the best deck that utilized it is Pointed as well, and so it's going to be harder to utilize it in any of the other strategies, meaning that you may see less Shifter decks overall, or perhaps there may be a chance where new decks that could utilize Shifter come into play. Ninja best deck, baby, let's go. We gaslit them into thinking that it was going to be totally unplayable, when now it is like one of the better decks in the format. Let's go. We could play three Daruma Carvacan and 3 Book of Eclipse and Book of Moon. We could set them all damn well we please. It's going to be good. Sword Soul is now playable, thankfully. At least somewhat, I like to think. Hidden City being unhit is pretty good. Shout out Dinos. Shout out Beast Warriors. Shout out Psychic. Shout out Warriors. All that being said, if you like this video, if you want to watch more content similar to this, and if you want to see more Genesys content, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment down below, hit all that. My name has been Doc Conrad, YGO. Hope you liked this video. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you next time.